Arsenal versus Manchester City did not live up to the expectation. On today's episode, I'll be doing a deep dive on how both teams played. Welcome back to another episode of Ball IQ Podcast. Let me get my stretches in. Before I come on. Welcome back to another episode. Thank you for sticking with us. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share with anyone you know. And let's get straight to the Arsenal versus Man City game. Like I said, it did not live up to the expectations at all. And surprisingly, Arsenal played as expected, but City were a little different than what we're used to, I'd say. Starting with Arsenal played their, four in the back. Saliba back from injury to replace Mascara with his partner in crime, Gabriel, Calafiori on the left, Jurgen Timber on the right, Noni as right midfield three of Merino, Zubimendi, Declan Rice, Trossard on the left, and Gyökeres up top. And for City, they played Doku and Foden. City played the same starting 11 again for like 3 games in a row, but the only difference is Foden played outright this time and Bernardo played as the second 8 in this game, along with Tijani Reinders and Rodri Holding. And right back, Kusanov started on the right back. He's been playing pretty well with Ruben Diaz and Vardiel and the young boy O'Reilly at left back, and obviously Donnarumma and Raya in goals. Arsenal tried a couple different setups in possession. Early on, they inverted Calafiori in there with Zubimendi as the 2 passing options. While let's move them forward. While Declan Rice was, left in the, further front in the midfield 3 to create a box like this. Him and Moreno, somewhat like this. Nani was right here and like that, and Trossard was right here. They started like this early on, then later they did a variation where instead of that, Calafiori stayed out wide. Declan Rice came in the middle for the double pivot, and Trossard was allowed to pick up the ball in these spaces. And Moreno was, playing on this side of the field. Obviously, what City were doing was, hunkering down, playing mid to low block for most of the game, and as you can see in the first goal, Haaland. First of all, shout out to Haaland because as somebody who plays football, I know how difficult it is to play back to goal. And I think this season, Haaland has always been a great striker for sure. Look at his resume, look at his record. But I think this season you can see the improvement in his football. And I think part of the reason is because Man City play more direct now than they did previous seasons. So his goal was, a great goal, turnover. I think the mistake that Gabriel made was he was too tight to him in here. And once he laid off Tijani Reinders and he spun off him, there was no contest there. Another thing that I thought was because Merino, I always say Merino was playing on this side. It allowed City to double up Noni every chance they got. Doku came and did it. Tijani Reinders came and did it. Rodri came and did it. In fact, sometimes in transition, you see Foden coming to do it, Bernardo Silva coming to do it. They never let O'Reilly and Noni 1v1. And the reason why that's possible is a couple of things. Number one, Merino is not that kind of player where he'll be dangerous as an option from this pocket. He's he has a high for goal, obviously, and he's a good player, but in here he's not like picking a pass or any trickery is not his game. So that allowed City to double Nani, and also because Timber was sitting, and because of Doku, of course, and because of how high Calafiori was playing either here or in here, they still want to maintain a back three. So Timber wasn't bumming forward as much. Again, the more reason why you can just double Nani here. Um, a couple episodes ago, a couple weeks ago, I mentioned the signing of Donnarumma being an indicator that Pep wants to do something different. And I think since Donnarumma came, actually even before he came with Trafford, you can see they're not like as interested so far as interested in holding the ball in possession and tiki taka coming from here like what Arsenal does, which Raya is very good at. Building up from the back to break the opposition. You can see Pep is trying to do something again, and the goal, Haaland's first goal was like a sucker punch, where out of nowhere, Arsenal dominating the ball for all the game, not even just the first half or anything. Most of the game, Arsenal had uh, control of the game and counter attack, bang. This is very, very new for a Pep side, and it's something that we are really getting used to. I think that Arsenal did try to give Joker some well, not some chances, but some through balls for him to battle with the defenders more than I'll say the previous big game against Liverpool, for example. So I think that is the key for Arsenal this season going forward to break that mold is one for Jokeris to do his job, but two for them to play to him and for him more often. Even though he misses, even though you pass the ball to him and he loses the ball once or twice, you just have to keep doing that because they have to keep respecting his runs and maybe one time is a decoy. But I did notice that they tried to give him the ball a lot more than before. Early on in the season. Just like everybody, I was kind of surprised that Eze didn't start. You could tell when he came on for Arsenal in the middle of the park. You can tell immediately Arsenal were just a bit more dangerous than they were before. Just that quality on the ball. Like, this is the first time we've seen him in the middle of the park for a while. Actually, for he plays out here and for Crystal Palace for last season at least. But seeing him deeper, I mean, his ball IQ, his passing range, his skill, like once he got the ball, they had to stand off him because if they press him, he can just glide past you and something that Moreno can't do, doesn't have in his locker. And immediately he came on with Saka on this side of the field. That double teaming wasn't happening as frequent because if you double team Saka, or like so, there's space here where then he drags everybody out of whack. So I think that I'm not sure why Arteta didn't start Eze. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but he was definitely missing in the game. And I think that going forward, I know Arteta likes that defensive foundation. They had a great defensive record last season, for example, and this season thus far as well. But my opinion is it's time for him to take a little more risk, which is starting Eze in the midfield. Or in this games like this, it's games like this you spend money on a difference maker like Eze. So I understand how defense win championships they say, but you have to score goals too. And Arsenal, I mean, they scored 69 goals last season. That's like under 2 goals a game. That's not enough. Right now they're second joint top goal scorers in the league, but it's early on, and they won 5-0 against Leeds. I think that if they continue like this, that average would would be the same again this year. And if they average under 2 goals a game, they are. I don't think they're winning the league. I don't think. Last season, Liverpool scored um, 84 goals with a decent defensive record themselves as well. So again, Arsenal, that game, for example, didn't. They should be creating more chances than they did. Both teams didn't. To be fair, didn't really do much attacking wise, but I think the onus is on everybody. Everybody's looking at Arsenal because they're home. They have probably the best squad in the league right now. Um, they've been second, how many, 2, 3 years in a row now. It's time for them to, take it up a notch. They made two big signings. Everybody's looking at them. So I thought that a game like this will have proven intense. And Eze not starting in the two big games they've had this season in Liverpool and City, I think is disappointing. If I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be disappointed. But for City, again, like I said, playing low to mid block, this is not something that we're used to seeing from a Pep side. I thought that him changing to a back five, I think he took out Foden and brought in, I forget who off the top of my head. I know Jones came in later on and to join the back. At one point, it was a back six, I felt like. But uh, towards the end of the game, to see a 1-0 lead out, which is crazy to say for a Pep team, they went to a back 5-4-1. They took out Haaland, took out Doku. I thought that, in my opinion, he should have left either Haaland or Doku on, because the more Arsenal were chasing, they left more, like more spaces in behind, just like any team would when they're chasing a game at home. And I thought that Haaland or Doku, because of their pace, should have stayed on. Um, Pace and form. Arsenal, Haaland is the top goal scorer in the league. Doku is playing out of his skin this last 2, 3 games. I thought that both of them, or one of them, should have stayed on. Haaland came off first, then Doku came in later. Even if he had left Doku and he operated like right here once they won the ball, Tijani Reinders can make a run because he has the legs to do it, to support, or they can just, I think Rodri or Bernardo or Tijani Reinders have the ability to find him in space, and Saliba is not catching either one of them, in my opinion. So I think Pep made that mistake, in my humble opinion, of course. But another thing is the mid block that they were in to concede the goal when Martinelli came in. When there's no pressure on the ball, when Eze is right here and there's no pressure on the ball, and you leave space in behind, you can't do both of them. You can't not press the ball and leave space in behind against quality opposition. It's just a mistake. But a beautiful goal, beautiful pass, beautiful finish from Martinelli, who scores off the bench again for Arsenal. All in all, it not as entertaining game as me personally I was expecting. I was expecting more, I don't know, more, how a big game feels. It just feels different, electric. It wasn't electric enough. I think it was electric in bits and pieces of the game, but it wasn't electric enough. And that was the IQ deep dive. Really quick, I'll take you through the recap of the last week since we spoke. Champions League was back. Great first couple of games. The Juventus Dortmund game was wild. Ended up 4-4. Marcus Rashford went crazy on Newcastle, his favorite opponents. First couple of goals for Barcelona. Bayern Chelsea was a decent game as well. Liverpool Athletic was another classic. Last week I was mentioning, every time I think of, when I thought of Liverpool versus Atleti, I'm reminded of Morata's celebration at Llorente sliding across. He did it again, scoring 2 goals again at Anfield. Good game. Over the weekend, Chelsea lost to United 2-1. So tough week for Chelsea, tough week for Nelson. He'll be back next week to answer for his sins. But tough week for Chelsea. The Man United Chelsea game was another not so good game. Obviously, the red card kind of spoiled things for Chelsea. Then Casemiro got himself sent off as well after scoring. It was not a good game. It was just not a good game. Um, Kane still scoring hat tricks left, right, and center in Germany. I believe he is 2 goals away in I think a couple games, 2 games, to equal or break Haaland and Cristiano's record for the fastest to 100 goals for a club. He's currently on 98, and I think he has played like 103. I think the record is 100 and 105. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's very, very close to breaking that record. And he probably will. So he score. They get penalties all the time. He's going to get a penalty at least 3 times in the next 2 games. So no. I think he will at least equal it. Knock on wood, he doesn't get hurt or anything like that. And the Balon d'Or winner is Dembele. I think most people are happy with that outcome. Think that the one that is shocking personally to me is Rafinha finishing fifth. With the season he had, being top scorer in the Champions League, top assist provider in the Champions League, his performance for Barcelona in the league, in the Champions League, in the Copa del Rey, in the Super Cup, big games against Inter, against Madrid, always showing up. I don't, with the amount of goals he scored, the amount of assists he had last season, and the success of his team domestically, I don't understand how he finishes fifth. I don't. That was kind of shocking. But again, it's the Ballon d'Or. I think over the years there've been some questionable, rankings and winners, if I'm being honest. So that was definitely shocking. It was Lamine Yamal finished second and Vitinha finished third. Personally, I would have Rafinha second and Vitinha third. I know I'm a Real Madrid fan, so maybe I'm being biased, but I know Lamine Yamal is an incredibly effective player in terms of like the things that he does doesn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet, for example, all the time, but he impacts games and causes havoc. But I think that Rafinha was a little more consistent than Lamine was last year. Lamine did win the Golden Ball, that was no question. But I thought that Rafinha definitely deserved to be top three. Um, and I won't have been mad with Vitinha being second either, because he had a great season with PSG as well, and he won the Nations League with his country as well in the summer. So my pick will have been Vitinha, Rafinha, second, third. But hey, man, you know how these things goes. And for the women's sport, Aitana Bonmoti, I think is how it's pronounced. She's won her third Ballon d'Or in a row. She's an incredible player from the bits that I've seen, and obviously the EAFC players would know her from her cards on the game very, very well. So congratulations to both of them. I wanted to mention this really quick. I know I mentioned it. I can't remember when. I think the first time PSG did this in the Champions League last season, the kickoff, new kickoff, kicking it off to the corner throw to try and pin the opposition down. I'm like, okay, this is innovative. Now everybody's doing it, and now people are just doing weird stuff. I'm like, okay, what is going on with our game? What is this nonsense? I like the one that I like personally is the kickoff where everybody like lines up on one side of the pitch and immediately it's kicked off, it kicked back to the goalie or whoever, and they crowd one angle of the field and they launch it there to try and win the second ball. I prefer that to all these new variants that I'm seeing of this kickoff thing. Is kind of getting out of hand. Everybody needs to relax with this. I don't know what's going on. Everybody just needs to relax with this. I just needed to touch on that a little bit. But player of the week. I mean, most players played twice since the last time we spoke. There was the ones that stood out to me. Marcus Thuram, still in a pretty good form. He didn't score on the weekend, but he had a good week for Inter as well, and prior to the game prior as well. Marcus Rashford had a great game for Barcelona against Newcastle. He was dropped from the starting 11 for being 2 minutes late for the game over the weekend against Getafe, but still came in second half, gave an assist, so he had a decent week. Harry Kane scored 2 goals against Chelsea, another hat trick over the weekend away to Hoffenheim, I believe. Martinelli deserves a shout, coming off the bench in 2 games and scoring. The one to win the game, one to save the game. So shout out to him. Definitely deserves to be a nominee. But my personal player of the week is my boy Kylian Mbappe. I think that he's been playing like a man on a mission this season, and I'm sure he'll be happy for his brother Dembele winning the Balon d'Or. But he's playing like he got next this season, and he's firing on all cylinders. Scored a brace against Marseille last week. Scored against scoring again, in the weekend against Espanyol. So he's definitely off the blocks this season. I wouldn't be surprised if he has another phenomenal season, and if Madrid can win some titles, Balon d'Or maybe. So Mbappe, congratulations, IQ Player of the Week. IQ Goal of the Week, there are a couple. Yildiz against Dortmund in the Champions League. Vicha Kvaratskhelia against Atalanta, Champions League. Rashford against Newcastle. The second goal was crazy. But my personal winner was Militao against Espanyol. If you have not seen that goal, please go see that goal. I might clip it and put it up here. But if you see that goal, there's no way that's not winning the IQ Finish of the Week. So congratulations to Eder Militao on winning the IQ Finish of the Week. Upcoming fixtures this week, Europa League starts. Try and catch a couple of games here and there. I know Europa League personally, I think they have a decent amount of golazos scored in that league over the years. So I like to watch, around the grounds, just to see what team is playing where, and you discover players here. I remember the first time I saw Victor Boniface was in the Europa League, and I'm like, who is this guy? And obviously he was Nigerian as well, so I was more inclined to follow his career. So you see some gems in there, some good teams, underdog teams performing, and like I said, some great goals. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. This weekend, 2 big games. Real Madrid Atleti is playing this weekend. Madrid Derby at the Metropolitano. Real Madrid they've been, Atletico Madrid have had a poor start of the season. Real Madrid usually struggle at that stadium over the last couple games. I don't know if it will be another tight 1-1 or 1-goal game. I think that's where that's what is the vibe is. That's what the vibe is. But with this new Madrid setup and how this Xabi Alonso ball, Xabi ball, I'm curious to see how it plays against Diego Simeone. And in that atmosphere as well. This is his first big test of the season against a difficult team for Real Madrid. So keeping an eye on that for sure. This Saturday and this next game, keep an eye on is AC Milan Napoli. Napoli started the title defense very well. AC Milan had a slight blip in the beginning of the season, but they look like things are clicking. They won that last game 3-0, I believe, away. Modric is doing his thing, so it would be good to see Modric versus KDB. And Serie A is always entertaining, at least for the last couple of seasons. So eye on that. But that's it. Thank you again for watching, for supporting. Please like, comment, share. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you watch this till the end, thank you for sticking with us. And we'll see you next week. Nelson will probably be back next week as well. Appreciate it. Peace.